My name is Gladys. I'm standing outside the house where I grew up, a sealed envelope in my hand. It's been a while since I last set foot here. As I look at the familiar yet changed facade, memories come flooding back, and I'm transported to that fateful evening. It was a typical March evening when my father called and invited me over for dinner. I foolishly thought he was trying to mend the strained relationship we'd had since my mother's passing. I drove to the house, a place that once felt like a warm embrace but now felt like a cold, foreign place. When I sat down at the dining table, I noticed how different everything looked. The house had been redecorated by my father's new wife, Stella. She was a 36-year-old woman who worked in my father's business. She cut her food with an air of self-assuredness, as if she'd already planned out this conversation. Stella then calmly told me that it was time I handed over the inheritance my mother had left me. The family needs it, she said. $400,000 sitting in an account doing nothing is such a waste. You're being selfish. I was shocked, especially when I saw the bracelet on her wrist that I was sure belonged to my mother. I turned to my father, hoping for some support. He put down his fork, folded his hands, and said, "Stella is your family now, Gladys. Your mom would have wanted you to take care of the people I love." A cold chill ran through me. I didn't cry, I didn't raise my voice. I simply said I needed to think about it. After finishing enough of my dinner to seem composed, I drove home. The next morning, I called Mr. Walter Thompson, my mother's lawyer. He'd handled my mother's family finances for over 20 years. When I told him what had happened, he said, "Gladys, your mother anticipated this. Come to my office today. Bring nothing. I have everything." I walked into Mr. Thompson's office with just my car keys and a heavy heart. The office was just as I remembered it from my childhood. There were dark wood shelves, the smell of old paper filled the air, and a framed picture of a forest stream hung behind his desk. He was in his late 60s, with a head full of silver hair and a calm, steady presence that made me feel secure, even in the midst of this chaos. He stood up when I entered, shook my hand firmly, and motioned for me to sit in the chair across from his desk. Then he opened a thick manila folder and slid a sealed envelope towards me. "Your mother prepared this 18 months before she passed," he said. She was very clear-headed and thorough. She told me she hoped she was wrong about what would happen after her death, but she wanted to be prepared. I held the envelope with both hands. My name was written on the front in my mother's handwriting. I hadn't seen her writing in over 2 years. I had to take a deep breath and press my lips together before I could speak. Mr. Thompson gave me a moment. He was good at sensing my emotions. Inside the envelope was a 4-page letter, written in the same neat hand that had signed my school permission slips and birthday cards. She explained that she'd quietly restructured her inheritance, money that came from her own family and never truly belonged to my father, into a protected trust in my name alone. The trust had strict conditions. No spouse of my father's could touch it. It couldn't be transferred or gifted under any family pressure. And there was a mandatory 72-hour waiting period for any withdrawal over $10,000, a clause she added to protect me from being pressured in a moment of weakness. But it was the last page of the letter that broke me. She wrote about me, the girl she watched grow up. She mentioned the late nights we spent studying at the kitchen table, how I used to bring her tea when she wasn't feeling well, even before she got seriously ill. She also talked about the road trip we took to the mountains when I was 17. I only had a learner's permit, but she let me drive the last 2 hours and pretended to be calm the whole time. "Gladys," she wrote, "you've always put others before yourself. It's time to stop. Use this money to build the life you deserve. Travel to a place that scares you. Finish the degree you put on hold for me. Fall in love with something or someone and commit to it without hesitation." She signed it with her first name, Lily, like she was talking to me as an equal, not just as my mother. I sat in that chair and cried like I hadn't since her funeral. Mr. Thompson quietly placed a box of tissues on the desk and said nothing, which was exactly what I needed. That evening, I drove back to my father's house. I wasn't there to argue or explain the legal details. I simply brought the sealed copy of the trust documentation and placed it in an envelope addressed to both of them. My father opened it at the kitchen counter while Stella stood beside him. I watched his face as he read. I saw the moment he realized that my mother had foreseen all of this. That she'd planned for it calmly and thoroughly while she was still fighting for her life. His jaw tightened, his eyes turned red, and for the first time in my life, I saw him cry. I'll never know exactly what broke inside him at that moment, but he cried. Stella put her hand on his back, and I picked up my bag and walked out of that house. I haven't been back since. The trust remains intact. I used part of the money to finish my postgraduate degree, and I've booked a trip to Japan for the coming summer, a country my mother always dreamed of visiting but never got the chance to. I think about my mother every day. My feelings towards her have changed. It's not just the grief of losing her anymore. I feel the depth of her love, the lengths she went to ensure my protection, even from beyond the grave. She didn't just leave me money, she left me the proof that she knew me, trusted me, and believed I was worth fighting for, even when she was the one in need of protection. My mother, Lily, was a quiet woman. She didn't fight with grand gestures. She fought the way she lived, quietly, intelligently, and completely. Stella demanded the inheritance my mother left me, but my mother, from 18 months in the past, had already had the perfect answer. If this story has touched you as much as my mother's letter touched me, I hope you'll subscribe to this channel.